started as soon as we can, because the license law, it will take us the whole 4 hours to go through Appendix A, because I really want us to do it diligently, and I want you to really make sure you understand, and we'll review some of the little sections. But I got something, Durnan and Justin and Elliot asked that question last night about the spouse signing the listing agreement, and I want to show them where it is in the book. So I got to prove my point, don't I? I got to prove I'm right, don't I? And so that's what we're going to do. And tonight I'm going to send you home with a really good test, and I'm going to send you home with some math, a little math tonight, to add to the math that I gave you previously. Remember the math I gave you, and I said this is a compilation of types of math questions you'll see on your exam. And I concentrated on the ones, commission, net to seller, and some of those. I had left off the cash flow math and the return on, rate of return on your money. So I've made you some questions of those. And so I'll send those out with you tonight too. All righty then. Any comments or questions before we start? Everybody pretty good on what we're doing? All right, let's go to license law. Appendix A. I want y'all to see my book. I read my book every time I teach a class. I mean, I know that sounds silly, but I just want to. So I don't know what's important or not. Because I got circles, I got yellows, I got pink. So I'm going to try to figure out what's important in here to let you all know. But that's how I take my notes when I'm getting prepared. All righty, look at your introduction on page 615, left column, top paragraph. Look at the last 3 or 4 or 5 lines. The topics selected for comment here are not only of particular importance in real estate brokerage, but are likely to be tested on your license examination. So it would be very prudent of you to read this section even after I talk about it tonight. And everyone, since we know the students struggle at the state level, particularly on this part, I would read it line by line. I mean, I would just take a piece of paper and just go down, maybe with your finger. I know that sounds like not the right way to read, but you really got to read all the words here, because there's some little fine points that could mess us up. Requirement for a license, don't you remember we talked about that the first night we were together? Somebody tell me what you remember. Requirement for a real estate license. When would a person be required to have a broker's license?
When they are brokering real estate for compensation.
When they're brokering real estate for compensation. Now, for compensation gives you the idea it would be for other people. So we know that doing anything of a brokerage nature for others for compensation or the promise of compensation. Someone asked me today, Jan, that doesn't have to be money, does it? No, it could be, you can go to the beach and stay at our beach house for a week or 2. So it doesn't have to be money, but it would be valuable of some sort, compensation. They also bring up the term realtor again. Remind yourself that when we get our license, it's a broker's license, it is not a realtor license. When you join the Association of Realtors, you're joining the largest trade group in America, the Real Estate Association, the largest trade group. I think that's pretty cool. What do y'all think? Largest trade group. So being the largest trade group, obviously, I think to you, they're going to have lobbyists. They have a Realtors Political Action Committee, and they really go to bat for not just real estate agents, for people in regard to real estate and buying their home, the American dream, and fighting for issues that affect the real estate business, which a whole bunch does. So, for compensation, look with me at the license categories. It would be real important for you to remember the only license in North Carolina is a broker's license. Only license. Before 1996, I believe it was, we had two different licenses. We had a salesperson's license, and we, actually, I beg your pardon, 2006. 2006. We had a broker's license and a salesperson's license. When you read a question, if it says salesperson, they really mean provisional broker. You shouldn't see that word salesperson on any exam now because it's an outdated word, but if you see it, and you may have on some quiz questions, it means provisional broker. So in 2006, we went to an all-broker state. So those students who had, those agents who had just a salesperson's license had to upgrade their license. We taught a course called the Transitional Broker course. The people who had a license already as a salesperson, it was almost like they were sort of grandfathered in to be a broker, but they did have to take a real estate course. It was 24 hours, and it was kind of the precursor for our 3 30-hour broker courses. So we taught agency and contracts and closing and really everything just to kind of, at a different level, at a different stage, to upgrade their license to broker license. So they didn't have to take the new 3 30-hour broker courses, post-broker. So I would remember that provisional is a temporary status. Provisional broker means temporarily you're a broker. And we know we need to eliminate that provisional status by when? Huh? 3 years from when? Based on your license. So your license date, everybody, is important. Your license issue date, because the first year you got to get 1 30-hour course. Next year, another 30. And the third year, your third 30-hour, I'm saying year.
30-year course.
Yeah, it's a 30-year course. I need to go up on my prices. 30-hour course. Remind yourself that you can take these in any order. You can take them back to back. When we teach these, at every month. So we'll have one a month. We rotate the particular course, so hopefully if somebody wanted to get them done in 3 months, we've got the course to offer it for them. We do run some on the weekends, which a lot of students like, and they're 4-day courses, 7.5 hours a day. So most students we're finding want to get that knocked out. They don't want to come 10 times and meet 3 hours for 10 meetings. Most times students want to just knock it out. And had a student ask me today, do you offer those at night? And I told her, I said, most students don't want to come and take the courses, 8, 9, or 10 times. But it is something to think about next year while I'm planning the schedule. That might suit somebody's needs, to go ahead and just be here at night instead of coming on a weekend. A lot of folks can't take off during the week. They might have another job. And so I'm going to think about that and see if we can schedule some posts then. So remind yourself the provisional is temporary, is a status, and the purpose of the provisional courses is to eliminate that status. So when you get all 3 of your courses done, your provisional status will be removed, and you'll be what they call a non-provisional broker. You hear me say full broker. You'll be a full broker.
Is that automatically after you finish the last course?
After the school submits it to the Real Estate Commission. So when the students, we've got a class ending tomorrow, and when the students take their exam and pass it, we submit to the Real Estate Commission that they were here and met the hour requirement, because you can only miss 3 hours out of the 30, and submit their license number, etc., to the commission. So the commission's kept up with, is this your second, first, or third? And if it's the third, it does automatically remove. And the commission will send a new pocket card to that person, because on your pocket card, it has your status. Are you a PB or are you a B, a broker? So pocket cards now are digital, but they'll make the new digital one available. So when you get rid of your provisional, you can download it on your smartphone or print it out. Yes, ma'am?
So is it still inactive until you sign up with it? Even though,
Start all over, Jamie, I'm sorry.
I was saying, is it still inactive until you sign up with the bid, even though you finish the courses?
Good question. Her question is, what if I get my license and I want to go ahead and get my 30-hour post before I decide what company? Will my license be inactive unless I sign up with a BIC? The answer is yes. Because you have to have a broker in charge to activate your license, I beg your pardon, or become a broker in charge of yourself. Excuse me, everybody. And the only way you can be a broker in charge is to have 2 years full-time experience in the real estate business. So your license will be inactive. I do hear it from some students that they'd like to get that out of the way before they affiliate. What do y'all think about that? Because it might take 3 months to do it. I personally think y'all should just go ahead and jump into the business. I get that thinking, I really do, but I think that you can learn a lot by being on the job. Real estate is a whole lot of on-the-job training, everybody. Every day is different. Every consumer that you meet, different. So I would say go ahead and get started. Take those as you can. Most students say, I do want to get them out of the way, though, quick, because I get to kind of bone up a little bit on what I learned, and then I have it out of the way so I don't have to worry about forgetting it and not getting it done. Remind yourself, though, since Jamie brought that up, remind yourself, what if you, when you get your license and you go to a BIC and they officially activate you, if you miss one of these 30 hours, your license will go inactive. Remember that? You've got to get it done by your license anniversary date. By the way, the only place your license date is printed is on your license certificate. It will not be on your pocket card. And even if you call the real estate commission, they're going to ask you what's the date on your license certificate if you're asking them about going inactive or this or that. So it's on your license, which most of us probably want to have framed anyway, you know, because you'll be proud of your accomplishment, having finished this course and the state exam and getting all that done. All righty, look with me on page 615. Broker, we talked about that's the license that you'll rise to the broker level after you get your provisional completed, and you have to be affiliated with the broker in charge in order to use your license. Let's remind ourselves just for a minute. When you pass this course, your exam is next Wednesday night, 6 to 9. We're not going to stay and grade your exam that night. So your exam will be graded the next day by Scantron, and we will email you, Megan will email you if you passed or failed, and your score either way. By the way, when you take the state exam, if you pass, they don't tell you what you made. And I know a lot of us are type A and we want to know, what did I make? How many did I miss? And here's my advice to you. Tell everybody you made 100. Who knows? I mean, maybe you did. Maybe you made 100. So anyways, they won't tell you at the state level what you made if you pass, but they do tell you if you fail, what score you made, and they'll give you a readout on what areas you had trouble with. So when you pass here, we'll let you know what you made and still let you know what areas you missed in, because that'll help you getting ready for your state exam. If you fail, we'll tell you your score, and we'll tell you what areas you missed on that too. It's a separate readout that we'll put together for you. And a lot of students like to come by and pick it up. You can do that, or we can email it to you either way. When we let you know that you passed, we will have already notified the real estate commission. That's why we ask for your driver's license, everybody, because your name on your driver's license and how we submit you to the real estate commission that you passed the course, it has to match up. So Megan will have already notified the commission before she contacts you. Because when she contacts you, she'll give you my school code and my personal instructor code so that you can complete your application. You know, the online application, hopefully you've opened it and ordered your criminal background check, but you can complete it once you finish here with a passing grade. When you submit that to the commission, I'm hoping that they'll get with you right away. I'm hoping that you'll know before Labor Day. Sometimes they turn it around pretty quickly so that you can go ahead and plan on scheduling your state exam. So even if it's after Labor Day, that would only be 2 or 3 days. Our recommendation is keep looking at your notes, because while you're not here, it's really hard to keep that information intact. So I would study while you're waiting, and the commission will get with you just as soon as possible, which means they'll give you the A-OK to schedule your exam. You'll schedule your exam with the testing center, and it's back here in this Appendix A, and you can take a morning exam or you can take a late afternoon exam, whichever one you want. Remember, when you schedule your exam, you have to take both parts. They won't let you pick one or the other at your initial testing. You have to take both parts. If you pass both parts, that information will go to the commission and they'll re-look at your application and just double checking for character issues, things like that. If everything looks good to go, that's when they'll send you your license certificate with your instructions on how to get your pocket card, with the instructions that should you activate your license, you'll need to contact North Carolina Department of Revenue, because you will be required to pay a privilege tax to North Carolina, privilege of working in North Carolina, once you start your real estate business. Now, it is another fee, but guys, I've had my license since 1977 or 78. I don't remember which. Got married one of those years, got in real estate the next year. I don't know, one of those years. But, oh no, I forgot what I was going to say. What was I going to say?
What's the license?
Oh, privilege, the tax.
Tax, yeah.
It's been $50 ever since I've been in real estate. So it's $50 a year, and it's due by June 30th also. You know, it's a governmental fiscal year by June 30th. All righty, broker in charge, page 615. So getting to that, when you get your license, in order to use it, you do have to affiliate with a broker in charge. Y'all remember that, don't you? The broker in charge is the person who's transmits the form to the Real Estate Commission saying that this person, this licensee, is under my supervision. And once they submit it to the commission, you can begin to start selling real estate, acting like a broker. Since I said that, I want to mention something to you. You may have a test question, something like, while you're on provisional broker status, you can do most everything in your real estate business that a full broker can do. Can you think of something you cannot do while you're on provisional broker status? Can you think? Y'all put your thinking caps on. What can you not do if you're not a full broker? You can do most everything. What I'm saying is you can go out and start getting listings. You can go out and start trying to find buyers to show. You can sit at open houses once the BIC has activated your license. But what is it you cannot do? Operate, be in charge of a trust account, BPO for a fee. What?
Designated dual against a BIC?
Designated dual against a BIC, that's good. You cannot be against a broker in charge if it's dual designated agency, can you? Remind yourself you can be in the middle under dual though, even if the other person is a BIC, because remember, everybody's neutral and you're just trying to bring the transaction together. You can't open your own company, and that's what Azar was alluding to. When you're on PB status, your name can't be in the name of a company, and you can't open a company as a PB unless you have a BIC, you know, who is qualified to open your company and help you with that. So Those are the things you can't do, but you can do most everything else that a full broker can do. So you can begin your career. Broker in charge is not a license either, everybody. Broker in charge is a status. It's a status. The broker in charge has a broker's license. Next up, page 616. To qualify to become a broker in charge, do you all remember any of that? This is a nice review tonight for this section of our book, which really includes a lot of agency also, which is in Unit 7 and 8. What do you know that it would be required for a broker in charge, Shannon?
A 12-hour bid class.
Okay, a 12-hour bid class, when?
Within 120 days.
120.
Within 120 days after
Designation.
designation. But how do you get to be a BIC at the beginning? What are the qualifications to be a BIC? At least 2 years full-time experience in real estate. The experience in real estate, everybody, can be property management experience. It can be on-site salesman experience, brokerage, real estate experience within the previous 5 years. 2 years full-time or 4 years equivalent part-time. The commission doesn't tell us, they don't have a quota type of number. They don't tell us to be a BIC, you gotta have sold 24 houses or that sort of thing. They do want to see proof that you have been working in the real estate business, so they could ask you for proof of that. For example, what if you designate or declare yourself broker in charge of a firm or of yourself if you're a sole proprietor, and you've had your license a little bit over 2 years? The commission may look at that and probably want to verify that you've got enough experience. You only need the 2 years full-time experience, but they might say, we need to see some of your transaction files just to be on the safe side. If you were a commercial real estate agent, having 1 or 2 sales in 2 years or transactions that would be a lot of experience, wouldn't it? So it all kind of depends. They don't tell us exactly how many numbers, but full-time they do tell us your files should give the impression that you've worked a 40-hour work week for full-time. Now that's a little bit of a laugh, some of us who know about real estate, because you'll be working a whole lot more hours than that. If you want to make this your career, and starting out, you're going to put in the hours to get your business up and running, I would think. You don't have to, but I would think that you would when you're first starting out. Alrighty, so to become a BIC, we know about the full broker status, and you would have to have the experience. And Shannon said they have to take that 12-hour broker in charge course within 120 days after being designated. The 12-hour broker in charge course is trust account and some other things that the broker in charge is responsible for. One of their biggest duties is the trust account, making sure that everything is reconciled and everything is in good order. And then other things they may talk about, someone told me who went to that course, is he said they talked a whole lot about advertising. What do you think about advertising that a broker in charge needs to be aware of? Fair housing, the words you're using, what else? Blind ad, making sure you've got the firm name in the ad, making sure all of your agents there are complying and have the firm name in the ad, and make sure they're not using any discriminating language. And I thought today about the truth in lending. Remember, truth in lending says if you're advertising any financial numbers, you need to fully disclose all of the terms of the financing if you want to advertise even one number. Remember that in Unit 15 or 14 about the truth in lending. I don't know that brokers really advertise that much. We're not really what you would call an arranger of credit, but you could have a mortgage broker give you some insight on the best kind of financing for a particular listing you have. And if you wanted to advertise it, you need to have everything, which includes the annual percentage rate, or either don't advertise it. You could have it at your open house or at your listing on a sheet with all the scenarios and what it would take to qualify. That would be a good thing to do. All righty. The 12-hour broker and charge class will account for that broker and charge for 4 hours of their continuing ed. All licensees have to take 8 hours of CE every year. So a broker in charge would have to take 8 hours as well. 4 hours is called their broker in charge update. In your reading, they called it a backup. Other brokers have to take an update, you'll hear called Gen Up, General Update Class, if you're not a broker in charge. That's required, and it's rewritten every year by the Real Estate Commission. The other 4 hours would be an elective of your choice, as long as it's an approved course through the Real Estate Commission. The elective you can take online. We offer, we have a link on our website. You can take your elective online. The update course has to be instructor-led, in person, instructor-led. All righty. Limited non-resident commercial broker. There's some really meaty stuff in there. I was reading over it a little bit last night. This is what this means. If someone has a license in another state, broker's license in another state, and they want to come to North Carolina for a commercial transaction. Now, you know, there's a broker license. When you get your license, you can go in commercial real estate, right? You can go into property management. So it's not, the license is meant to be limited for you to come here and do a commercial transaction. So if that person wants to come into the state of North Carolina, they have to be licensed to come here. So what they would do is apply to the Real Estate Commission, pay the application fee, and submit a criminal background check, and then they can come physically to the state for a commercial transaction. What they would have to do is affiliate with a broker. The broker would be responsible for overseeing the transaction. So they're going to sign 2 agreements. They're going to sign an affiliation with the broker agreement, and they're going to sign a cooperation kind of an agreement. Real key, I think, is they don't get a broker in charge here. Their broker in charge is in the state from where they're from. So they're not going to have a BIC overseeing them, but they do have to have a broker overseeing the transaction, a full broker. So that would be limited. The limit word is not a time word. The limit word is for commercial only. By the way, since I said for them to come here physically to do real estate, everyone, the real estate business does operate on referrals too. If you get a call from somebody in New York and they want to give you a referral, you can pay them a referral fee if they stay put in New York and if they've got a license in good standing there. You can send them a referral fee. Once they say they want to come to North Carolina, you can't pay them whatever you want to call it fee. You can't pay them unless they have a license here. Let me give you an example. And I don't think I gave you this example before. If I did, tell me and I'll move on to something else. What if you get a call from someone, and I'm going to be a little sexist and say it's a woman mama. It's a mama. And she's calling and she gets one of you and she says, I want to refer my son to you. He's going to buy a house in Greensboro, North Carolina, and will you pay me a referral fee? You would ask for their license number so you can verify it, and you can say sure, and you'll negotiate the referral percentage. As you're talking, she might say then, well, you know what, I think I'm going to come down with him and look at some properties with him. I cannot pay you anymore if you come to North Carolina, unless you have a North Carolina license. Well, you wouldn't be paying me a commission. I'm just going to be acting like the mama. Well, but you're wearing a real estate hat first, mama hat, real estate hat. But once you become a real estate licensee, you can't really take that hat off. So I get it, I'll just wanna be there as a mama, but if they come to North Carolina and want a referral fee, you can't pay them unless they have a North Carolina license. Does that make sense? So you can't do it. All right.
Jan, question. On this limited non-resident commercial, each time they do another transaction, they have to go through this process again? Or can
No.
they do multiple transactions after they find a broker once?
It sounds like Barry's question, it sounds a little bit like, do they have to apply to the commission again and go through all of that? No.
Okay.
This license will expire June 30th like everything else.
Okay.
Now, whether they affiliate with that same broker, I don't know. You know, I would imagine they could go to another city, or something like that. But it's a license that will expire June 30th, just like ours, like everybody else's. All licenses expire June 30th.
And any referral fees that you're paid, does it go straight? And it's supposed to be directed to a broker in charge?
If you are working with a firm and a broker in charge, all fees run through your broker in charge. But couldn't that mama be a broker on their own and not be affiliated with anybody? It could be just for referral purposes. Let me give you an example of that because you might see something like that on your exam. When you reach the non-provisional status, you're a full broker. You can be a referral agent only if you want to be and not be in the real estate business, but your license would have to be active. To be active and be a referral agent, you would have to make sure you pay your renewal fee and you would have to make sure you take your continuing ed because you're already a full broker. Everybody with me? So you would not have to have a broker in charge to get referrals. You can just have the license for that reason. You cannot go out and solicit business and act like a real estate broker. It would just be for referrals only. My license is a full broker license. I am not affiliated with a firm. I am not a broker in charge of myself. But if somebody says, like my niece, when she was getting ready to move last year, she said, Jan, do you know somebody I can call to help me list my house? So I gave her a name and I called the broker first and said, I'm going to send you my niece. She's getting ready to list her house and I'd like for you to get the referral, and will you pay me a referral fee? If you don't ask about it, you might not get nothing. So, and will you pay me a referral fee, and here's what I want. Is that good with you? And you'll document that in writing. And so I can get that referral fee directly because I'm not affiliated and I'm not doing business on, as a broker, but my license is active and I'm a full broker. So you can be a referral agent like that. Mm-hmm.
We have to not advertise any of the be an escort, right?
Escort.
Escort. Escort. Hopefully you're
What'd you say? I forgot already. I got distracted.
You have to not hold yourself out as a real estate agent. You have
Yes.
to be set up as an escort.
Yes.
Right.
I cannot, well, you don't even have to be an escort per se. Any broker can say, I just want to be active for referrals.
Okay.
What it means is you cannot advertise yourself as a broker, though. Once you start, if I went around and started asking people, do you know anybody that wants to refer something? Then the commission says you cross the line, and now you either need to be affiliated with the BIC or become one of yourself. So, Kurt?
I guess I'm wondering about the specifics of the terms active and inactive. I thought to be active, even if you're full broker, you had to have a broker in charge.
Not for referral only.
Okay.
If I want to be in the business and use my license, I would have to have a broker in charge. You can be active once you reach the full broker status. It's in here somewhere. I can find it for you. Once you reach that full broker status, you can say, I don't want to be in the real estate business, but I do want to be able to get referrals. And active means you're taking your education and you can request to the commission you just want to be a referral agent and you're not going to be in the business anyway. So You don't have to have a BIC if you're not in the business. And so being just a referral, just referring, now the commission does go into more detail on what that means. You know, referring, not soliciting the business though. And it even says that occasionally you can go show property like to a family member. You know, you're not soliciting the business. So technically I could go sell my son a house and get the commission. I didn't solicit the business though and leave myself out to be a broker in the business. Justin, what's your question?
I forgot.
Okay. You'll think about it because you'll think of it because you're
Oh,
young.
I was thinking, okay. Pretty much, when you're a non-professional broker and you're not under a bid, the only thing you can do is refer.
No. Oh, say that again?
If you're not working for on broker in charge, if you're not on affiliate with broker in charge, but you are a non-provisional broker, the only thing you can do is refer.
That's correct.
All right.
Only thing you can do. Left-hand column, page 616. Remind yourself who needs a license. And Kurt told us if you're doing brokerage for others for the promise or for compensation, then you would need a license. And they're giving you examples here. Now, a lot of this stuff, everyone, we talked about already. So it's a review for you, I hope. Listing or offering to list, selling or buying or offering to help sell or buy, leasing or offering to rent, like property managers for others, conducting an auction. Everyone, if someone wants to auction off real estate, not only would they have to have an auctioneer's license, they're going to have a real estate broker's license to boot, if they're auctioning real estate. Leasing, assigning, anything, exchanging interest in real estate. And number 6, referring a party to a real estate licensee. If somebody is referring you, a client, customer, you may not pay them a referral fee unless they have a license on active status. Now, there is this thing called nominal, a nominal gift. What does nominal mean? That could be a little sneaky question because it's in your license law section here. What's nominal?
Like a gift card, for example,
It's under a certain-
What's the definition?
under a certain dollar amount.
Well, I'm not articulating my question. Nominal, let me just say, you're right, as an example. Nominal means insignificant amount. It means it's not very valuable, insignificant, and a gesture, something like that. And in your reading it says, for example, like a $25 bottle of wine, like a $50 certificate to go to dinner. It would be very nominal if you're given any kind of a thank you card or something like that. All righty, page 616, unlicensed employees and their permitted activities. This is a wonderful section for us to make sure that we know. And what can this unlicensed assistant or employee do? Basically, they can do anything that is of an administrative or clerical kind of job. They cannot go marketing for you. I had someone ask me that. If I have an assistant, can that assistant go call for sale by owners or the expired listings trying to get me listing appointments? And the answer is no, because that's crossing the line, acting like a broker. Cannot do that.
Can they like drop off flyers or things like that
Mhm.
to businesses?
They can drop off, they can deliver things, information. They can even meet a repairman at the listing and even stay there to supervise the repair. They can call other brokers to communicate certain things for you, not negotiating all offer though or anything like that. They can act as a courier. Let's look and see. Page 617, receive forward phone calls or emails, submit listings to MLS. Everyone, I'm not real sure that brokers do that anymore. Have an assistant submit to MLS. And here's what I'm hearing, and I don't know for sure, but here's what I'm hearing. If you submit something to the multiple listing service and you have a mistake, they will monetarily fine the broker. So they will fine you if you make a mistake in MLS. I'm not talking about the real estate commission. They kind of work it like this, and I don't know the details, but my son just told me. First offense, they'll find you, and it's not cheap, $500 maybe. Second offense, $1,000. Third offense, you can't use MLS anymore. So they're wanting what the data that you're putting in there to be accurate. Because isn't that our livelihood? Using that data source, finding properties for our buyers, and even looking at those properties to compare for the seller if we're doing a CMA. Now, don't quote me on the numbers, and whatever board of realtors you choose to join, they may have different rules. The point I'm making to you is that when you join MLS, they have rules about it. And they've gotten real strict on submitting listings in a timely manner and submitting correct information. And so they're pretty serious about it. One other thing that's kind of serious is, I don't know if you've heard the terminology lockbox key. It's not literally a key anymore, it's a little computer chip or computer card. You paid for that, and there are, golly, I think there are monthly fees on it. You pay it at the beginning, $75 or something, and then you pay monthly fee for that. If you let anybody use that, you could be in trouble too. Like a friend at the office, like another broker, saying, I forgot mine, I gotta go show a house, can I use yours? You better not let them. The commission finds, not the commission, I'm talking about MLS. If they find out, you could be in trouble.
Yeah, when I show houses and when I didn't have super access, they're not gonna give it to you. They physically come out and let you in. And I've had, when I first got into business, a couple of brokers would do that for me, because sometimes when you go into the business, you're rushing to get in it and you don't have everything set up. But I was with TMLS out of the Triangle, and they were very strict about that. And they were also very strict that if you did have an admin entering any of the information, they had to have separate access to it. So it's the subscribership
It's tight.
is very tight.
Is tight. What I was getting around to is, I don't know what the assistant does anymore, or as far as MLS goes, or I don't know if the company has somebody employed at the company that is charged of getting that into the system. What I'm hearing at some companies is, though, that when you get a listing, it's your responsibility to get it in MLS. So, and you want to make sure you're doing it correctly. That's a little intimidating because you can make a transpose, or, you really need to be proofing it all along. And so look at this list, because this is on your exam, what an unlicensed assistant can do. They can put signs up. You know what, I went through here, everybody, trying to figure out where could be a little trick, or where could be a little word that might make you miss a question. Marcus, you don't think I can find it?
I found it.
Oh, you did? Look at number 4. Place a for sale sign or a for rent sign and lock boxes on the property at the direction of the licensee. That's a little fine point, I think. You can't just go out and start putting signs up, number 1, without the seller giving you written permission, but you have to be under the direction of the licensee. Now, maybe that's not a fine point, but I'm looking, seeing if I can help you see this. Order and supervise routine repairs, minor, at the direction of the licensee that you work for. And so the courier provides factual information that would be known, like in an ad, schedule appointments for showings, communicate with other licensees, confirming, any kind of facts. Look at number 10, I would put an asterisk by this. This is a little exception, isn't it? If you have if you work for a property manager, you can show the rental property by the employing broker to prospective tenants and complete pre-printed forms, leases. You may not negotiate on without a license. And so if you get a question and it says, you work for a property manager and you're going out to show an apartment, a rental apartment, and the renter said, you quote the rent, you say the rent's $600 a month, and that prospective tenant says, well, will they take $550? You don't know, you cannot answer that question because you're not allowed to negotiate. Now, let me rewind that a little bit. What if you worked for a vacation rental company, and you get a call for somebody to come out to look at a vacation rental? If your property manager says to you, we need to rent that beach house for one more week, the summer's getting away. If the rent is $1,000, if that prospective tenant says, will you take $900, you have my permission to quote that price, a pre-negotiated number. Does that make sense? You can't just negotiate it, but if the property manager says you can come down to $900, then you can do that because they pre-negotiated on this end, so to speak. So that would be under vacation rental, not under residential like normally that you hear about around here. Look to your right on 617 and look at number 6. Exemptions, who needs a license? Certain employees and property managers. So isn't that what we said? An assistant doesn't have a license or an employee to go show a rental, and neither, if you work for a property manager, is a license required. So that's a little bit of the same thing. Go back to the left column, number 11 and 12. Type up the offers. You can record and deposit earnest money. Everybody, when a company is, when a broker in charge is in charge of the trust account, if they decide to have a trust account, lots of times the broker in charge is not the one who is doing the work. Lots of times they hire a bookkeeper type, somebody experienced, or an accountant type. They don't have to have a real estate license to do that job. That's what that's saying. However, the broker in charge is ultimately responsible that the books are being done correctly. All righty, and let's look at the exceptions to needing a license. And I would like for you to read number 1, bottom left on 617. Read number 1, if you will, because that gets us a little bit like what Elliot was bringing up a little tiny bit. Does it make sense if you work for a corporation that owns real estate that part of your job might be having to do with that real estate? You don't have to have a license. And so that's what that means. Lots of companies own real estate and have people hired to just handle that, and they don't necessarily have to have a license. Some of them get a license anyway, but they don't have to have a license. An attorney, in fact, what's an attorney in fact? They don't need a license. Power of attorney. Would it make sense to you if I said a power of attorney is acting like you? If you get a power of attorney, aren't they being you for that decision? So if you don't need a license to buy or sell real estate on your own, well then your power of attorney or attorney in fact wouldn't either. An attorney at law doesn't need a real estate license if they're helping a client in regard to legal aspect that has to do with that client's real estate. They cannot go sit in an open house over the weekend. They cannot hang their shingle on the weekend and say, I want to be a real estate agent this weekend. They're not exempt for that. Only if it's in the course of their attorney job helping a client. Maybe helping a client with their for sale by owner, helping a client like that. Trustees, anybody appointed by the court, housing authority, and any employees of them. They're exempt from licensing. So that could be a nice test question. Let's look at the commission makeup. And before we talk about it, why don't you get your license review out, your final exam review, because I'd like for you to look at the Appendix A, and let's make sure we address these questions. We're gonna talk about more than that though, because we're trying to get you prepared for your state exam as well. So let's make sure we're good to go on what is being addressed here. And what we're looking at right now is the Real Estate Commission authority and purpose. And that's on the bottom right of page 617. The Real Estate Commission, and you remember this, is comprised of 9 members, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, everybody get your form before we, it says final exam review, national and state. I'm following this, Marcus, under the Appendix A that's in your state or portion of your exam. The Real Estate Commission is a governmental kind of entity, if you will, but is comprised of 9 members. Now, that doesn't mean only 9 people work at the Real Estate Commission. If you go down there or call on the phone, golly, they've got an education department, they've got a legal department. I mean, it's really like a business being run there. But the commission, the Real Estate Commission, these members are the ones who will hear complaints, or the ones that might need to look at someone applying for a license to see if they need to talk to that person. I think I mentioned to you, I've only had 2 students that I'm aware of that when they sent in their application, the Real Estate Commission contacted them and said, you need to come to Raleigh. We need to talk about this first before we give you approval to take your exam. One of those persons had written a bad check, and golly, don't we help people with the largest expenditure or purchase of probably most of everybody's lifetime, so they wanted to talk to that person. The other person I didn't ask. Why? Because I was just a little suspicious it was bad. But anyway, I don't know for sure. But guess what? Both of them were allowed to take the state exam, and both of them got their license. So the Real Estate Commission is not there not to give a license, but they want to make sure, since they protect the public, that they're making sure you're a good candidate for a license. And then I told you about the young man who had a felony assault, didn't I? Yeah, it makes me sad. But the commission, when he called down there, they said you probably shouldn't even take the course because that's a pretty major event. So anyways, they're not there not to give you a license, but these members overlook the applications and they talk, if somebody needs to go down to the commission for a complaint, or if you've had a complaint against you, those 9 people will rule over it. You do need to remember 7 are appointed by the governor. You need to remember 2 come through the General Assembly in North Carolina, one of which is Senate, and one of which is House of Representatives. You need to remember that at least 3 of those members have to be in the real estate business, like a licensed real estate broker. At least 2 of the members are non-real estate people. They are not affiliated with any real estate affiliated industry. They're public people. Since the commission is overseeing and protecting the public, it makes sense that there'll be members that are just public people. It's you're nominated. It's it would be an honor, I would imagine. They serve 3-year staggered terms. They are not salaried employees. They do get a stipend, I would imagine room and board if it's required, gas, mileage, food, things like that. They do elect a chairman of their own every year. And I mentioned they serve 3-year staggered terms. If you look at the powers, other than overseeing the public, protecting the public, I beg your pardon, they are in charge of licensing brokers and firms, and even registering timeshare developments. Guys, or projects. That word registering rang a bell with me, because if someone wants to have a timeshare development, remember, anyone who sells timeshares must have a broker's license in North Carolina. the timeshare developer would have to send in what we call a certificate of registration to the Real Estate Commission. So registering is an appropriate word because they have to send in that certificate. They come up with pre-licensed programs, post-licensed programs, other education, excuse me, like continuing ed, and even public education, programs for the public. Alrighty, next page, look at number 4, top left. Regulating business activities of brokers, including disciplining licensees if they violate. Now, we had a little quiz question, and it said something like, does the commission oversee licensees' business practices, I think it said. Practices. Guys, and I mentioned to you on that quiz, they are not going to tell you how to do your real estate business. You're an independent contractor, right? And you can set your business model up the way you want to. But they do oversee activities like if you misrepresent a material fact, if you make a false promise, buy this from me and I'll buy you a new refrigerator, and then you don't do it. The commission will look at that if somebody files a complaint. So they oversee activities, but not how you run your business. I know that might sound close, but I hope you understand that. I was looking at this last night, like I mentioned to you, and I saw something else that I don't think I've mentioned to you before. We know that the Real Estate Commission can discipline licensees. They do not monetarily fine us, but they can discipline us. There are 4 different types of discipline, aren't there? Censor, which means your name in the real estate bulletin, in your local newspaper, what you did, what the commission did to you. They can reprimand you, which is a note on your record, you know that you've done something wrong. They can suspend your license. They can revoke your license. The thing that I noticed when I reread this was the commission will allow, in some circumstances, for someone to surrender their license. So it wouldn't be like an all-the-time thing, but you can surrender your license. So what it makes me think of is they are investigating you, and you're probably going to be disciplined for something, and maybe you don't want to admit wrongdoing, but you just say, I want to surrender my license. So it wouldn't be at every event thing that they would allow that. So it says in some circumstances.
What were the 4 again?
Censor,
Suspend, censor.
reprimand, suspend, revoke.
Second paragraph, 618.
Second paragraph, 618 left. I would also read this section when it talks about the Real Estate Commission. Couple of little paragraphs under your very important point. 2 down. The commission has the power to seek in its own name injunctive relief. Do you see that? The commission can seek court assistance. The Real Estate Commission does not criminally prosecute licensees, but they can seek the court to help by looking for an injunction, which means an injunction is maybe somebody's acting like a real estate agent without a license. The commission can go to court to get an injunction, stop acting like a broker without a license. So they can seek court relief. I would remember that. I've seen that somewhere along the way. And any violation, look at your last paragraph before prohibited acts. Any violation of the license law or commission rules is a criminal offense, a misdemeanor. Now remind yourself, if you get disciplined in another venue and you have a real estate broker's license too, aren't you supposed to notify the Real Estate Commission in writing within 60 days? Now, it really is if you've been well, I don't want to use the word convicted, but that makes sense. If you have been convicted or charged with, if you messed up in the appraisal board and the appraisal board reprimanded you, suspended you, or did what they're allowed to do, then that's kind of like a conviction in a way. You notify the commission in writing within 60 days, and they can discipline you too. Remember we said just because, they can discipline you too. But I would remember, and may be prosecuted in a court. And finding by the commission that you violated license law does not constitute a criminal conviction. So if you violate license law, that's not a criminal conviction. They would have to investigate it and figure out where it goes. Everybody with me on that? All right, your outline. We looked at the North Carolina Real Estate Authority and purpose. We looked at what unlicensed assistants can or cannot do. We even talked about requirements for active license, didn't we? So we're getting through here pretty well. Let's do this. It's 7:05. Why don't we take our first break, and then we'll come back and carry on.